Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, well, this is going to be something that a lot of people have been requesting me for a long time and asking for an update, and I was quite bad not updating it for longer than it would behoove. So finally we are here. So this is your account progression guide. That being said, here is how it started. It was relatively simple based on whatever content we had available. And then when I made my April 22 guide, it exploded because obviously we had a lot more content in the game. However, I decided to simplify it yet again because at the moment, I think realistically, a lot of the game is extremely outdated to various degrees. And in order to progress fast, there are only very limited amount of contents that matter. And so we're going to be going over the sequence how I recommend you try to get to your Paragon title. And then there will be some notes and stuff like that. I also have ranked arena challenges based on their, my perceived difficulty of them. But here we are. So before anything else, it is extremely important to understand as you are making your first steps, and this progression guide effectively starts properly from becoming Cavalier. So I think that becoming Cavalier obviously is relatively straightforward. You just do story content. But I think one of the most important things on every new account challenge that I have seen when I made my new account is that you want to try and push yourself early on monthly side events, even if that takes you some items to clear, even if it's not easy. Fact of the matter is that every single piece of content that has existed in this game gets their rewards outdated to a point where they're really not all that relevant to whatever you are trying to achieve very quickly on. So initially, obviously, being able to do any content, do your act 1, 2, 3, 4 completion and stuff like that. Of course, complete your act 5 but the earlier you get in on monthly side events and monthly event quests, the better, because those are the events that get the rewards updated properly. And when you compare, higher difficulty monthly side event rewards to a lower act rewards, it puts it to shame, and it's obviously much shorter and quicker type thing to do. Might not be easy, but I think for new players it is super important to start focusing on monthly side events as quickly as possible, especially because those rewards effectively refresh every month, versus all the permanent content rewards will always be there. That being said, additionally, I think it is important to get into an active alliance relatively early on. And for newer players, I would suggest focusing on alliance that prioritizes alliance quest, plays whatever maps are to best of your ability, but plays 3 battle groups of Alliance Quest, therefore gets the best possible rewards. I think relatively low tier Alliance War rewards, especially with outdated loyalty store, is nothing, too amazing. So yeah, Alliance Quest is where I would kind of start that focus. And then as soon as you become Cavalier, I recommend doing the variant completion runs that will significantly let you expand your 5-star roster, and it is going to be one of the points at the bottom. I do not think that you or any other new player should invest much in 4-star champions at all. When I did my new account challenge, I didn't max out a single 4-star. I had a couple 4-stars at rank 4, but I pretty much immediately started focusing on whatever 5-stars I got, because 5-stars have so much higher ceiling than the 4-stars do, and it seemed just like a waste of ISO and gold. And yeah, by doing so, all of the variant rewards are kind of outdated pretty much, and the difficulty isn't the greatest either. But for newer players, they can still be a great source of rank up gems that includes a ton of catalysts and everything else. So once you become Cavalier, I basically recommend doing some variant completion runs, and obviously try your best to push monthly side events. It is also important to understand that this game's most important goal for progressing players is to get to the highest story progression level as early as possible, and then you can worry about anything else. It's pointless for you to, I don't know, try and focus on Alliance War or virtually everything else, or start grinding for units for, I don't know, July 4th weekend, as a cow player, as a thronebreaker player, pretty much similar. Your main sole focus should be to become Paragon, because then everything becomes easier. With every single progression level, you get access to better rewards, to earn them easier, to earn them faster, to better offers and everything else. So getting to that Paragon or Thronebreaker title is as early as possible is kind of like the most important thing. Over earning a couple extra 6 stars over, so on and so forth. Because once you're Thronebreaker, once you're Paragon, all that becomes much, much easier. So start doing variant completion runs based on your champions and start completing Act 6. Act 6 is hard, but as and when you can, focus on alliance stuff, focus on monthly event stuff, and try and push through your way through Act 6. And then, unlike before, you just move on straight to Act 7. Because if you can complete Act 7, probably can if you can complete Act 6, you can probably complete Act 7, and the rewards in Act 7 are much better, and the difficulty overall is lower. So while grinding through Act 7, clear the easier Karina objectives. That is where I would recommend people, because at that point, when you are in Act 7, you will likely have become Thronebreaker, especially if you are doing monthly side events. And then you can do some of the easier Karina's challenges that primarily involve, low rank 5-star champions or 3-star champions for these hunk of Junks King of combos. So I have ranked them here basically in 3 groups. These are, in my opinion, the easiest that can be done with, basically no items or very, very, very minimal item use. Then these are slightly harder. They can still be done with relatively minimal item use or no items, but they will require some more specific champions and things like that. So this is where I would recommend to go further. And these red ones are basically not worth doing until much, much, much later on. Because all of these are just an absolute revive dumps that I kind of advise all the newer players to stay away from. There are much better ways to use your revives, because again, Karina objective rewards are kind of outdated if you need to use a lot of items. If you can use a couple of revives and grab a 6-star dual crystal, that's awesome. If you need to use 50 revives, that's quite worth it. So that is just on a side here in this first opening tab. And then as you do some Karina objectives, still again, never ever let go of these monthly side events. That is where the best rewards will be. You finish completing Act 7 and you likely will not become Paragon. These green lines is more or less where you kind of change your progression title. So this is where you become Cav, this is where you become Thronebreaker, this is where most likely you will become Paragon. So once you finish completing Act 7, just if you are able to, and you should, because Act 7 and Act 8 does not have significant difficulty increases, just take a bit of break, replenish your stash, and just jump straight into completing Act 8.1 and 8.2. Because there is kind of like a very big shift and a big secret. 8.2 path rewards actually include rank 4 materials for 6 stars. And with that, obviously, is the easiest way to become Paragon. So, in my opinion, the best way to actually get those rewards, again, is grind monthly side events as much as you can, but at the same time, try to go through story content the best you can. Especially if you look up the guides. I have guide for every single quest, completion, and exploration on my channel, from Act 6 to Act 7 to Act 8. Look up those guides, learn what you need to know, and push through to this. And then once you are at this Act 8 range, where you will still have relatively underdeveloped roster for where you are trying to push, try to improve your alliance and effort in side events as you do Act 8 completion. This is probably a point where you also pay more attention perhaps to Battlegrounds or something else, because the alliance rewards are quite important as well, with the glory to obtain, convenient rank up materials that you might be missing, like tier 4 basics, tier 4 alphas, tier 2 alphas, tier 4 class catalyst crystals, tier 5 basics, things like that. Glory Star is quite good for that. And then start exploring 8.2 specifically, because 8.2 holds tier 6 basics and tier 3 alphas on the path themselves, and that in effect should pretty much, with all the other rewards combined, let you become Paragon thereabouts at this level. And then just start working backwards. Do 8.1, do 7, start exploring Act 7. And Act 6 and 5 and 4, exploration is really not the most important thing. You can do it as and when if you want to. Act 4 is arguably more important to explore than Act 5 and 6 because of the mastery point. And then the final point is accumulate your stash to tackle EOP and Gauntlet after you have become Paragon. So, few notes at the bottom here. Road to the Labyrinth and Classic variants, so that's the lowest variant difficulty, are neat little small unit grind options if you do not have much to do with your energy. Labyrinth is only worth doing if you can do it with minimal item use. That is to say, if you have one of the perfect champions for it, like Aegon or something similar. If you can do the Labyrinth with, very, very few items, it's fine because it can give you a ton of tier 4 CCs, tier 2 alphas, some signature stones for your champions. Not the most important thing, but I still recommend people do Labyrinth in order to experience these really, really long fights to get, better at the game in general, especially if you have appropriate champions for it. But if you do go ahead and try it and it's costing you items, then just go out. It's not worth doing it yet. This is really not worth doing at all currently. Leave it basically till the end, if you want to. Abyss will soon become, quote-unquote, worth doing when 7-star champions are a thing, I suppose, because 7-star champions will be able to blitz through it, but the rewards will be looked at the same as Labyrinth rewards. Kind of neat, nifty little things that you can pick up, but nothing that you need to use units for. Try to get into minimal Battlegrounds grind as soon as possible, because obviously Battlegrounds store is also one of the more solid stores in the game, and you can get some tokens just by playing. Especially you can earn a couple of the first promotions just by randomly winning a match, and that is obviously not going to happen as you are like cab player, but once you become Thronebreaker, you have a slightly better account. I'd recommend do dip your toes into that, see how you do, and at the worst case scenario, just find 3 matches, get your butt kicked, but you will still earn like 600 tokens every 2 days, which ultimately will still equal to some catalysts and rank up materials that you will find extremely useful. Currently, almost all content rewards are outdated, so side events hold the most value. That's the thing. The only real content rewards at the moment that hold very big relevance is 8.2 because it has the most rank 4 materials, which is important in order to acquire one of the biggest goals in the game, which is becoming Paragon. But, Act 5 rewards, Act 6 rewards are utterly outdated, Labyrinth and stuff like that. But, again, as I mentioned, side event stuff gets their rewards updated most frequently. And that is where you'll find most value. So that is where you want to put in as much effort as you can. Monthly event quests, side event, all of these objectives and things like that come along. Invest in Masteries as early as possible as it is permanent value. Now, this is quite important because Masteries is pretty much the only thing in the game that does not depreciate. So the sooner you unlock them, the sooner you benefit from them, the sooner you can the basically more benefit you get overall from having them unlocked. So don't do it at the very beginning of the game, but it is something that you should keep in mind in order to make the game much easier for yourself. You should have access to stuff like despair, stuff like willpower, to precision, cruelty. Let me know if you guys, by the way, want kind of a mastery video of the most bare bones important masteries, in my opinion. But yeah, masteries are important. They do make a big difference, and they can make this game and grind a lot easier and quicker. Try to always pick up at least first 3 to 4, 5 milestones in arenas, and this is another big question that a lot of people ask is like, which arena is going to go best to focus your grind on? And the truth is that, especially for newer accounts and progressing players, it's absolutely always the best option to just pick up the bottom milestones in all of the arena. As in, use your 4 stars in the Summoner Trial Arena, use your 5 stars in the Basic Arena, use your 6 stars in the Featured Arena in order to maximize your overall point gain. And the first milestones are much easier to pick up, and they can still give you some relatively decent amount of units. And the last point that I said, do not rank up many 4-star champions. First significant star level is 5-star, because in Act 6 and upwards, you can only bring in 5 stars and above. And yeah, 5 stars have much higher ceiling, to a point where if you really want, you can still use maxed out 5 stars in like Act 8. Like I used few 5 stars in Act 8 myself with having a massive account, for example. So yeah, that is definitely true. So do not rank up too many 4 stars. Obviously, when there are some amazing champions that will help you progress through the initial parts of the game, rank them up. But first significant star level is definitely a 5-star. Right, so that's pretty much it. I will leave a link to this spreadsheet in the description. You can always check out the older iterations of it as well if you want. And if you have questions, ask away. I'll try my best to answer them. But I hope this video was useful to you guys, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about